Well, hello. Thanks for joining me here on Countdown to Restoration as we count down. What I hope is soon the final days of the Biden regime. Maybe we'll have a show going into all the great possibilities. So we're here on episode 47. As you already saw, you're with Danny Thompson, host extraordinaire, as we go over the thief in chief. Yeah, go, buddy. The thief in chief. Yeah, the thief in chief. Yeah, he loves that. Have a good weekend. All right. You saw us triplets, I think. When was that? Yesterday? Anyway, we're going to move on. We've got a lot of show and more of the depressing. It's not a press conference. It's the depress conference. I'm telling you. More of that to come. Unfortunately, we have an obligation. The poster child for the Biden regime that just shows you how messed up they are. And so we said yesterday, guess who's back? And she wanted to go again today. So take it away.
I feel like a woman.
Shania, have a good weekend. I don't know. Everybody's going out of town. I don't know. They've all got plans. Except there are no plans for transgender girls who are really boys to be competing in sports, women's sports in Arkansas, as Arkansas bans transgender athletes from women's sports. Now, girls are still welcome to pretend to be boys and play in boys' sports. Yeah, you can do that. We're just, it's the boys pretending to be girls. That's the big problem, Rachel. That's the problem. See, most men aren't concerned that a woman's going to come into the men's restroom. Most men aren't concerned that some woman's going to pretend to be a man and put on football pads and hit the old gridiron. Most men aren't concerned about that at all. They're not even concerned about, women want to pretend to be men, okay. But see, when men pretend to be women, it changes the balance of everything. And there's something wrong with that. Even if you're like, I have no problem with people being transgender, there still has to be some limits. If not, why not just let men, why not take away women's sports and men's sports? Let's just have sports. Let's just have sports. Oh, yeah. They did that in the armed forces, and then they had to take the qualifications down for females, didn't they? Yeah. So they could have a level playing field with different qualifications. So if you just took away the men's and women's sports, you'd have to have so many women on your football teams, and they just changed the qualifications. And I am sure out there's some women that can probably mix it up with the men. I'm not doubting that at all. But not very many. Not very many. What else do we have that might upset Dr. Rachel Levin? Tennessee GOP bill would ban textbooks with LGBTQ content. That is the textbooks that are trying to teach us that all this is normal. Yeah, because it's not. It's not. I don't have time to preach to you today. Bye, Doc. And have a good weekend, too. We've got to move on, but what you need to do this weekend, instead of just binge watching, do some binge reading. SecularDems.org, Secular Democrats of America. Yes, every show, because you need to know this. You would understand a lot. They hate God. These people hate God. I don't care if pretend President Biden goes to Catholic mass all the time. He doesn't care about the Catholic religion. He doesn't care about what's right and wrong. These people hate God. They hate Christianity. They hate morals. They hate anything to do with what's right. Because they're trying to break down society. You need to read this because it's their guiding principle and they're following it. I don't just make this stuff up. If I did, I wouldn't have all these neat news articles. Now, abortion rights group break with progressive counterparts on filibuster. Now, why would they do that? Because they know that the filibuster sometimes is the only thing that has saved them from the Republicans passing what they would call restrictive abortion laws, is the filibuster. And see what the Democrats don't know. Of course, McConnell, he'll put it back in once we've got a narrow majority because we're stupid. We're stupid. And I'm not even a Republican anymore. I don't know what I am. I'm an American. I'm American. Dark winter of Biden, I know it's spring, but boy, it feels chilly out there to me. I don't know about you. What do we've got here? You remember President Trump did an illegal executive order during his tenure, and he outlawed bump stocks right after the... Did it happen? Was there a shooting in Las Vegas? Seems like I remember hearing. Wait a minute. No. I don't know where this ruling came from, why he did this executive order. But, because obviously there wasn't a mass shooting in Las Vegas. There was no real investigation. Nobody knows anything except a lot of people died right after trying to look into it. Anyway, bump stocks, not machine guns, and not subject to ATF ban, federal appeals court rules. And so that's good because, it was wrong when President Trump did it. But because it's not a machine, you can't. Executive orders are meant to order the running of your branch of the government. They're not meant to be laws. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, in between. They're not laws. And thanks goodness some courts saw that. And you don't just, even though the Biden administration regime is going to, they want to live by that. This one should kind of chill us all, even though it sounds good on the surface. New York Police Department officers are no longer protected from civil lawsuits after City Council passes police reform legislation. You say, well, everybody can sue the police. They can sue the police departments. Now, if you don't like the way an arrest went, you can sue the police officer in New York City. He or she will have to have their own insurance and everything else, which means what? Yeah, that sounds good. Means who the heck is going to be a cop? I mean, when you're arresting people, this is just nuts. See, you can't. There are some things you cannot fix. You just have to deal with it. There's going to be some bad cops. You can't fix that by taking every protection away. You can't do that because nobody's going to be cops. The old 60 songs, I won't live in a world without love. I really don't want to live in a world without cops either. Do you? I mean, come on, think just a minute, people. Department of Homeland Security weighing major changes to fight domestic violent extremism. Yeah, they want to start tracking everybody. Yeah, that's the same thing. They want to do the same things they do to terrorists that they've got in trouble for doing to people here that are citizens. Now they want to do it legally because we're all domestic terrorists if you're a Republican. Unless you saw the light or the darkness and voted for Biden. Yeah, so they want to do that, but hey, that's not all. That's not all. You see how all this goes. Lawmakers vow stricter regulations on social media platforms to combat misinformation. Yeah, free speech is what it's called. So if your information does not line up to the party line, as we know, well, and it won't be long, you'll be able to be sued for misinformation. You'll have to go to court and prove it. And of course, how you going to do that? Can't even. Don't get me started. I need 3 hours. And I don't want to do 3 hours today. It's Friday. Statement by President Biden on the attack on the right to vote in Georgia. That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia. I don't know why I didn't think of that before the show. That would have been perfect. Yeah, all they're doing is, doing things like, we can't have these ballot boxes just laying around the city for people to stuff. You've got to have ID, even to get an absentee ballot and this. And I know everybody's focusing on, you can't hand out water or snacks to people waiting in line. Why? Because people go up and do that and say, oh, remember us. We gave you water. Vote for us. And something they really hate, see what they really hate, besides not being able to have ballot boxes all over and not being able to anybody get a mail-in ballot, what they really hate, state officials can take over local election sites if there's improprieties suspected. They don't want that until the state officials are Democrats, and then what do you do? There's just a point, what do you do, right? But they're calling all that taking away the right to vote. No, it's trying to help the right to vote. Now this, I've got two of these here just to show you how efficient and how effective government can be. U.S. pledges to slash solar energy costs by 60% in a decade. Because, other than the material, to absorb the sun, solar energy costs, the main part of it's free, right? The sun. And so, hey, if they want to do it, fine. Who cares? Long as your electricity keeps electrocuting, right? Top U.S. scientists propose research into blocking sun to fight climate change. Do you see the problem here? Do you see the little irony? Yeah, we're going to be putting all kinds of money and huge amounts of money into solar research while we're blocking the sun. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I did not do that well in chemistry. I was okay in physical science. Biology, I did okay, but I just couldn't, science wasn't my thing. But even I, who would never want to be a scientist, can tell we've got a problem here. Yes, more money into solar while we're blocking the sun. Some days you couldn't make it up. It's like a bad Saturday Night Live sketch or something. The climate policy that could spark a trade war. Do we have more on that, or is it one of the ones I had to throw out because of time constraints? All right, when Donald Trump stormed into the White House in 2017, he stormed in. He brought with him highly unorthodox ideas about how the U.S. should trade with the rest of the world. Under his America First trading policy, the new president instituted heavy tariffs on things like steel, washing machines, and solar panels that we're investing more in while we block out the sun. Raising prices for imported goods, irritating trading partners around the world, and even sparking a U.S.-China trade war. By 2019, his Treasury Department was bringing in $79 billion from tariffs, double the amount from just 2 years earlier. Okay. All right. He stormed into the White House. Well, we know Biden didn't storm anywhere. Toddled. Now, even after President Joe Biden campaigned on a platform of restoring international relationships, his administration might be looking to institute some tariffs of its own. But this time with the overheating planet in mind. According to an agenda recently released by the U.S. Office of the Trade Representative, the new administration is considering a carbon border tax or border adjustment, which could hike up the price on imports from countries that, in the view of the U.S., aren't sufficiently addressing climate change. In Biden's climate platform, he similarly vowed to impose fees on goods from countries that are failing to meet their climate and environmental obligations. And so that will anger people because, of course, not everybody can just go to zero emissions in no time because, hey, they actually have to look at how they spend money. But not us, not us. What else do we have here? Oh, ex-Energy Secretary Brule, I have no idea. Brule? Biden's pipeline goes from bad to worse with Nord Stream 2 versus Keystone. Now, I don't have time today. I mean, it's a very good article. You should find it. Was it in Forbes? Yeah, Fox Business. What he's saying is, the Keystone pipeline, that was a good thing. But this pipeline in Russia is a bad thing. Trump was doing all he could to shut it down. What the Russian pipeline doing is bringing natural gas into Eastern Europe and into Germany and France. Well, as Trump said, we're paying to defend Europe from Russia, and then you're supporting Russia by buying their natural gas. This makes no sense. And plus other things, and you're giving them huge control over you because in the middle of the cold, dark winter, they can shut off the gas. Which, ask anybody in Texas, that's a bad thing. Now, he is saying that Biden is not doing all he can. They're making some noise. They're saying some things, but they're not working to shut down this pipeline, which is true. And wasn't just a Trump policy. Congress passed laws on it. And so his point is, shut it down here in the U.S. Of course, we know they're not shutting down every pipeline, just that one. But let the one in Europe go. Why? Because you don't care about the U.S. You don't care about the U.S. Of course, I don't think it takes long to listen to Joseph Biden speak and know he doesn't really care about the United States of America. This one we have told you about, I think, who was it? Seattle or Oregon or someplace already is getting one going. White House considers vehicle mileage tax to fund infrastructure, Buttigieg said. And they had already hinted at this. See, they realize they hadn't figured this out with the sun yet, but they realize as we start moving people away from gas-powered automobiles to electric-powered, they're not going to be stopping at the old gas pump to pay that federal highway tax. So, what we've got to do, we've got to have a different tax. And we can tax how much a vehicle drives. So you'll have to report your mileage and et cetera, and pay so much per mile. Now then, that will not have the added benefit of, hey, I've got a high mileage car, so I don't have to fill up as much. It'll just be per mile. Well, it'll be 0.005 cents per mile or whatever. I don't know how they're going to do it, but that you'll have to pay that. Take it off your taxes or report it at the end of the year. So I don't think that's a good idea. How about you? Especially since we're doing infrastructure in all kinds of ways. I don't. Oh, but here's some good news. Speaking of taxes, IRS, mask sanitizer bought to fight COVID-19 can be deducted from taxes. We didn't do this slide, but if you and if you did, our condolences to you. I mean this sincerely. If you buried a loved one because of COVID-19 issues, FEMA will help pay for that burial. So you need to contact them. But so your mask and sanitizer, that is tax deductible. I wish I'd bought more now. We've had the same mask. And the same bottle of hand sanitizer. What did we spend? Oh, no, we bought those up first two. That was like $2.50 a piece. And then we paid $4.99 per pack at Target. And then we got like a $6.99 bottle of hand sanitizer. I mean, the thing was huge. You couldn't run out. And they were out of the alcohol based. All we had is a plant based. And that stuff stinks to high heaven. But anyway, we can deduct. So $5, $10, $15. We can deduct almost $20. Refund, yeah. Study finds U.S. lockdowns, another study it should say, didn't make a big difference in stopping COVID, but that doesn't mean they're pointless. It's the government working again. You know, More money in solar, block the sun. Lockdowns don't work, but they're not pointless. Yeah, they got a point, all right. Yeah, that's what it is. Tell the average kid going to school. All right, so we got through that. Make a run for the border. Taco Bell does sound good about right now, doesn't it? I haven't told my wife yet. They brought back the potato burrito taco or whatever it is to the dollar menu. She loves that thing. Anyway, so it's a good Friday for her. We might eat Taco Bell tonight. Get her a $1 potato burrito. We know we spare no expense around here on the weekends. All right, from the Epoch Times. You remember the pictures and everything came out from Representative Cuellar, the Democrat from Texas. There's one of his pictures. Representative Cuellar says he receives more border information from Mexico than U.S. government. Now that's got to make you feel good, ladies and gentlemen. That's just... The Democratic lawmaker who leaked images of the conditions at migrant detention facilities said on Thursday that he's received more information about the crisis at the southern border from Mexico than from the U.S. government officials. I'm glad that my friend Roberta Jacobson and her team are in Mexico, and I'll get a readout from the Mexicans because it's hard to get information from our own government. Representative Henry Cuellar, Democrat of Texas, told MSNBC Jacobson, who previously served as U.S. ambassador to Mexico from 2016 to 2018, is now serving as coordinator for the southwest border. And as he says, I sit on the Homeland Appropriations Committee. I get more information from across the river than I get from my own government, which is just amazing. Yeah, now you don't feel so bad, do you? Even people in Congress. And we thought it was just Republicans that were treated that way. No. We have an exclusive. Border Authority, we already knew this. See, their exclusives are always behind us. Have you noticed that? You should watch us more and tell people, hey, he's got even before up to the minute news. Border authorities released 2,000 migrants into U.S. without notices to appear in court. We've reported it. Others have asked. It's denied, but it keeps coming up, doesn't it? Yeah, because it's happening. Because the border people are like, okay, we're tired of it all. We're just here. Just go. We've got this from our roving reporter on the scene. Actually, I don't even know the guy.
Came down. We were following this transport bus onto a friend of mine's private property, his ranch property, and followed the bus, and this is what we found. At least 50, probably half of them children, all just came over the river, and they're just simply waiting here to be picked up by Border Patrol. Large transport bus. We could tell it was going to happen because we saw the bus coming down. Anytime you see these big white buses, you know it's going to be a large group of people. And this is what we found. The shame is we're hearing from Border Patrol, continuing to hear, when you see the children, cartels are actually selling children to men and women to help them get across. Now, some of these obviously are the children of the parents, but Border Patrol estimates that a minimum of 1/3 of the children that are brought across the border do not belong to the adults that they're coming across with.
And that's nothing new. That's happened before, but it's still chilling, isn't it? You know, we'll never know how many children didn't make it to the border. Never know how many Mexican kids were kidnapped. We'll never know how many. Because Mexico can't even keep statistics like that. And yet, the Biden administration, the Biden regime, just won't stop saying come to these young minors. No, we're going to take you in. Oh. See, we just keep saying this.
Angela, Fuentes, come on down!
And you know, it gets sadder than that. 9-year-old girl drowns while trying to cross Rio Grande. I find it heartbreaking. I mean, it never even had to happen.
No.
Somebody should have told then candidate Biden, stop saying that. Of course, he still denies that's why people have come. And yet all the people coming keep saying that's why they came. This from CNN. More than half of all migrants at U.S.-Mexico border expelled under health order in recent weeks, which isn't true. It's not true. It's fake news. Number one, more than half are children whom we're keeping. And then we're keeping over half the families, and we'll have some of that in the upcoming press conference. Oh, you know what? Let's just go ahead and play that now. All right, yeah, let's play that clip now. Can you get that one up? It's all me, but it sounds like it's big this way, doesn't it? Which one is that? Oh, that is Ducey, who did not get called on yesterday. He actually asked Jen about that. She has said, you've got to ask him questions before I call on you. Yeah, the only major network they didn't call on was Fox. Yeah, they told Biden, don't call Pete.
The president said yesterday the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people coming to the border and crossing are being sent back, but only 13% of the 13,000 families that tried to cross last week were sent back, according to Axios. So where do we get a majority out of 13%?
The vast majority of adults are being sent back.
Okay, so the family units, 87% of them are being taken into the United States to either be resettled or await their hearings. I'm just curious, 87% in the country of the family units is not a majority being sent back.
A majority of adults, which every adult is not a part of a family unit, as I'm sure you're fully tracking, and tens of thousands of people are coming to our border. We know that. And so the majority of adults are being turned away. Our policy remains the same. We are implementing Section 42. As the president touched on, and I touched on a little bit earlier this week, there are capacity issues in Mexico, which we are in discussions with them about addressing. And they are not in a position to accept and take the families that they have in the past. So that's part of the diplomatic discussions that we're having.
Okay, and just one more.
Just one more. That's when he asked, how come you didn't call? The president didn't call on me. Yeah, well, they didn't care about that. I call on you. Okay, so that one. What is this one? Oh, that's just, yeah, the Biden administration expelled more than half. It's not true. It's not true. Maybe way back, but not now. Deported families at the border say they're shocked and confused. The article goes on to say, why didn't we get in? They got in. We didn't get in. And you know, one of the things driving this, because Biden issued an order for a 100-day moratorium on deportations. These people do not understand that is deportations of those already illegally in the country. So they thought they had 100 days to cross the border. Bad messaging. Bad messaging. I'll say it again. Bad messaging there. I mean, and they are interviewing men in this article saying, I'm going to try again. I've got to go in there. I've got to have work. I'm going to keep trying. This isn't going away. I don't care what I'm trying to be nice, what these people in charge are saying. All right, this is from Senator James Lankford. He is one of the senators not just getting into Carrizo Springs, which is the nice place, but he is also, where is he at? Is he at Donna? I don't know. This is a video, and it only worked rectangularly, so I can't turn it for a full view. This is his video on his phone of the facility there. Yeah, that's just day 2 from the border. This is a pod that's designed to hold 80 people that's currently holding 709. Everybody wrapped up in those little aluminum blankets. That's what the noise you heard besides the talk, that shh, when they turn, it makes that noise because there's so much of it. That's criminal. And as you see, Biden, he's talking about moving 1,000 next week. We'll see in just a little bit. 1,000? We got over 15,000 in custody. They are so far behind. I mean, and it's on them. Not that they say it's on them. And Senator Langford showed side-by-side, for a side-by-side comparison, the first photo is from my trip to the border in 2019, the second from today. Plenty of space to walk around and safely spread out in 2019. Oh, it looks about a little different. What was that? 3 kids sitting watching TV, about maybe 3 back in the background, covered up in the same aluminum blankets. You know, Reynolds Wrap has to be making a fortune. And then what looks like, you know, a scene from Alien. You've got all these people wrapped in space blankets or something. But hey, we're working on it, man. It's Trump's fault. I don't remember what this one is. Men looking for work drive surge in illegal crossings at the U.S. border. Who comes up with this? Family units, and yeah, there's always men trying to get in to work. Family units, and what they're doing, they're starting to call 17 and 18-year-old boys men, which technically they are, because they're coming trying to get in. It's just all lies. It's just lies. Because you know what? You know what they're all doing?
They're coming to America. They're coming to America. They're coming to America. They're coming to America. They're coming to America today.
Today, every day, never stops. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. Step inside, step inside. Tell you what else seems never ending, this presidential press conference.
Come ride the little train that is rolling down the tracks to the junction. Forget about your cares, it is time to relax at the junction. Lots of curves, you bet, and even more when you get to the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
There's a little hotel called the Shady Rest at the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
It is run by Kate. Come and be her guest at the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
And that's Uncle Joe. He's a moving kind of slow at the junction. Petticoat Junction.
And I have a clip here because I work so hard just for you. You remember Rich Little, if you're old enough to remember him, you know, guy who did all the impressions of people, started with Richard Nixon, and just here he is with Mike Huckabee on the Huckabee Show, or whatever it's called, talking about being able to impersonate Joe Biden. It's kind of funny.
Anyway, do you have a Biden impression? Is that a hard one to do? Joe Biden?
Well, Joe Biden, I'm working on him. It's tough to do, but, you know, it's tougher for him, actually.
Thought that was fun. You picture Biden getting, I just can't remember how to do me anymore. And that's sad, but he asked for it. You know, I've been nice, but he put himself in this position. Dr. Jill should have known better. If Hunter wasn't Hunter, he would have said, Dad, you can't do this. And of course, they're daughters and stuff. But anyway, he wanted it. He got it. We read you the conversations. Go back to the start. He wanted in on this, so he gets it.
And just this morning, we learned the number of people filing for weekly unemployment insurance fell by nearly 100,000 persons. It's the first time in a year the number has fallen below the pre-pandemic high. So there are still too many Americans out of work, too many families hurting, and they still have a lot of work to do. But I can say to you, the American people, help is here and hope is on the way. Now I'll be happy to take your questions. Zeke, Associated Press.
I showed that clip for two reasons. One, shouldn't that be hope is here and help is on the way? And he was reading that. So anyway, just a slight thing. But also, they're taking credit for the unemployment rates going, and they have done nothing to alter the unemployment rates going down. It's just a natural growth of the economy because people are finally opening up the economy. Anyway, and after that was the total lost look in his face as he looked for reporters to raise their hands or something so he could call on. Then he remembers, oh, I got to call on them. Oh, where's my pictures? Let me do this real quick, but because it will, it will help you understand what he is doing. Let me see. Can you hang on a sec? Don't go away. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Where are the pictures? Oh, yes, here they are. Just quickly. Yes, let's show you. Here's one. That's his little cheat sheet. So he can call reporters. It's got the reporters' names, it's got their pictures, and it's got the order in which he's supposed to call them. We don't know if he actually had the questions or not. He did have notes you can see, and it's kind of blurry, blown up, but they're numbered, so he knew who to call, when to call, who not to call. So he's not just looking at names, he's trying to find the numbers on it. And as you noticed yesterday, he's having to read, and I had a Chris Wallace thing. Oh, geez, I'm forgetting everything today. It must be Friday. Where is that Chris Wallace? Let's see. Yes, Chris Wallace. Reagan would have been roasted if he read foreign policy answers from a script. You remember, we showed it yesterday how he had to read about North Korea. North Korea, I could do that press conference. No, I'm telling you right now, we're going to be out of Afghanistan. Oh, and he got the White House had to change the transcript because he got the leader's name from Afghanistan wrong and actually confused it with a Pakistani general who's a bad guy. And so they changed it in the transcript. And Chris Wallace hated Trump, and he's been a Biden fan. Yeah. North Korea, how easy is that to answer? No, we're not going to allow that. But he didn't even read it you could tell. And I know what happened. I know this from the inside. While he was reading, his mind he couldn't even figure out what North Korea is. Not even, he just, that's why he was reading it so impassionately, he didn't even know what North Korea is. It's like the scene on Christmas Story, if you ever watched that. And the main character, Ralphie, is in Santa's lap. And he can't just remember what he wants for Christmas because he wants a Red Ryder BB gun. And Santa asks him, says, would you like a football? And the narrator says, football? What's a football? Yeah, he forgot. He didn't even... North Korea, I know it's something. Is that next to North Dakota? And again, you say, oh, you're making fun. No, he's leading the country, ladies and gentlemen. This is scary. Don't you find this scary? All right, let's get it. This is him talking about the border, I believe.
I said that is my expectation.
No.
So is that a yes that you are running for?
Are we starting with that? I wish you people would tell me. Okay, he is asked about running for president, so we'll just stay in that. Here we go.
And just this morning, we learned the number of people filing for.
Keep up, Danny. Well, if you people would label these, it would really help.
I said that is my expectation.
So is that a yes that you are running for re-election?
Look, I don't know where you guys come from, man. I've never been able to travel. I'm a great respecter of fate. I've never been able to plan 3.5 years ahead for certain.
And if you do run, will Vice President Harris be on your ticket?
I would fully expect that to be the case. She's doing a great job. She's a great partner. She's a great partner.
And do you believe you'll be running against former President Trump?
Oh, come on. I don't even think about it. I have no idea. I have no idea whether there'll be a Republican Party. Do you?
I'm not sure about that answer. I just threw that in because, you know why he's saying that? Because they know if they get the voting rights bill passed and it gets through the Supreme Court, there won't be a Republican Party. No, there won't. So anyway, if you don't like the Republican Party, fine. If you want to be ruled by one group of people, fine.
It's not about communism anymore. It's about an autocracy. Demand decisions made by a leader of a country. That's what's at stake here. We got to prove democracy works.
Mr. President, sorry.
Now, I'm sure he meant command decisions, not demand decisions. And what he's talking about, he's talking about China and Russia and such countries that, of course, China is communist, so I don't know what he's talking about. Russia is not supposedly communist anymore. But he's talking about leaders who can just make decisions on their own. We've got to combat that as he's ready to write all kinds of executive orders and make demand decisions, just the leader at the top. See, it's bad for them, but it's okay for us because he's going to do good things. This is his strange answer on gun control, and they're asking him about, the reporter is asking him about, which the question comes right after talking about a leader making decisions on his own, and Biden saying that's bad, and then he asks about executive orders. It's just...
I know you haven't had a chance to address the tragedies in Georgia and Colorado. You had said to stay tuned for actions that you might take on gun control. Wondering if you've made a decision either about sending the manufacturer liability bill that you had promised on day one to Capitol Hill, or executive actions like going after ghost guns or giving money to cities and states to battle gun control.
All the above. It's a matter of timing. As you've all observed, successful presidents better than me have been successful in large part because they know how to time what they're doing, order it, decide on priorities, what needs to be done. The next major initiative is, and I'll be announcing it Friday in Pittsburgh in detail, is to rebuild the infrastructure, both physical and technological infrastructure of this country.
Yeah, that's the next initiative. They're working on the executive orders to just rule on his own, but timing. And that upset a lot of gun control groups because they're like, why isn't this important? There's people being massacred right and left all over the country. Yeah, not timing. If you're in one of his press conferences, you have to feel like this guy, Josh Lucas, in the movie Poseidon, while they're trying to get out of a very tight spot.
Drop it.
Yeah, just waiting for the man to say a word. Just banging your head against the shaft there. Josh Lucas says something Dylan. I'm not sure. His name's Dylan. I know that. In the movie Poseidon, just underwater. Yeah, finally he said a word. Isn't that the most eerie press conference you've ever seen in your life? It's so quiet. People aren't that quiet in church. Reporters are so carefully speaking, like they're talking to a child. Excuse me, I told my wife yesterday, it's like listening to an old man in a nursing home. It's just, you just look and it's like, this is the leader of the free world?
So young man, go west, and this is the way our country developed, from the East Coast to the West Coast. During that period of time, there was initiated what was known as a Pony Express. I'm sure all of you read something about it in the history of the United States. I may not have the days exactly right or the years, but
Yeah, it just keeps going on and on. Doesn't even notice nobody's looking at him or caring. And that guy talks quicker than Joe. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is concerning to me. It's got to be concerning to others. Anyway, more on the border. Where are we going now? I apologize. We have a long one. There's nothing I can do about it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, the first one's okay. All right. All right, where is that? Did we get that? 222. Yes, here it is. This is him explaining the border as we promised earlier.
all of that. So what we're doing now is attempting to rebuild the system that can accommodate what is happening today. And I'd like to think it's because I'm a nice guy, but it's not. It's because of what's happened every year. Let me say one other thing on this. If you take a look at the number of people who are coming, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people coming to the border and crossing are being sent back. Thousands, tens of thousands of people who are over 18 years of age and single people, one at a time coming, have been sent back, sent home. We're sending back the vast majority of the families that are coming. We're trying to work out now with Mexico their willingness to take more of those families back. But that's what's happening. They're not getting across the border. And those who are coming across the border who are unaccompanied children, we're moving rapidly to try to put in place what was dismantled, as I said. For example, of all the children who are coming across the border, over 70% are either 16 or 17 years old. We're not talking about people ripping babies from mother's arms or little 3-year-olds standing on the border. Less than, I think it's 1.5% fall in the category of the very young. So what we're doing is we're providing for the space, again, to be able to get these kids out of the Border Patrol facilities, which no child, no one should be in any longer than 72 hours. And today, I went to, for example, I used all the resources available to me, went to the Defense Department, and the Secretary of Defense has just made available Fort Bliss, 5,000 beds. Be immediately available, 5,000 beds in the Texas border. So we're building back up the capacity that should have been maintained and built upon, that Trump dismantled. It's going to take time. And the other thing we're doing, I might add, am I giving you too long an answer? Because if you don't want the detail. No, but I mean, I don't know how much.
Yeah, we don't know how much you want him to keep going on. Just say same thing. This reminded me of another movie, one of my favorites, Humphrey Bogart in the Caine Mutiny during the court-martial segment. If you haven't ever seen it, I do recommend it. Very good movie. And he's got some problems. And there was a little problem on ship, mutiny, they took over, and now the captain, they're sure they're going to rule in favor of him until he starts talking. Anyway, here we go. Take it away, Hump. I don't know what they called him.
Lieutenant Merrick was the perfect officer, but not Captain Queeg. But the strawberries, that's where I had them. They laughed at me and made jokes, but I proved beyond the shadow of a doubt and with geometric logic that a duplicate key to the wardrobe icebox did exist. And I'd have produced that key if they hadn't pulled the cane out of action. I know now they were only trying to protect some fellow officer and... Naturally, I can only cover these things from memory. If I've left anything out, why, just ask me specific questions and I'll be glad to answer them one by one.
Except he's covering it from memory. Biden had a script. Yeah, Trump did it. Trump did this, and I can prove it, and all this. Wait a minute. Am I telling you too much? Just ask me specific and direct questions, and I'll do the best I can. Just imagine all the doctors and lawyers and court-martial people there in the movie being reporters, just staring at the thief in chief. Here we go. This is an interesting exchange. Well, it's very slow, so it's a very slow exchange.
Cecilia Vega.
I'd like to circle back to immigration, please. You just listed the reasons that people are coming, talking about in-country problems, saying that it happens every year. You blamed the last administration. Sir, I just got back last night from a reporting trip to the border where I met 9-year-old Josel, who walked here from Honduras by himself, along with another little boy. He had that phone number on him, and we were able to call his family. His mother says that she sent her son to this country because she believes that you are not deporting unaccompanied minors like her son. That's why she sent him alone from Honduras. So, sir, you blame the last administration, but is your messaging in saying that these children are and will be allowed to stay in this country and work their way through this process, encouraging families like Josel's to come?
Well, look, the idea that I'm going to say, which I would never do, that if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let them starve to death and stay on the other side. No previous administration did that either, except Trump. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. That's why I've asked the Vice President of the United States yesterday to be the lead person on dealing with focusing on the fundamental reasons why people leave Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador in the first place. It's because of earthquakes, floods. It's because of lack of food. It's because of gang violence. It's because of a whole range of things that when I was vice president had the same obligation to deal with unaccompanied children. I was able to get it slowed up significantly by working with the heads of state of those communities to do things like in one of the major cities, the reason people were leaving is they couldn't walk in the street because their kids were getting beat up or shot or gang violence. Well, what I was able to do is not give money to the head of state because so many are corrupt, but I was able to say, okay, you need lighting in the streets to change things? I'll put the lighting in. We got a contractor. We got the type of lighting. We paid directly to the contractor, did not go through the government. And violent crime significantly was reduced in that city. Fewer people sought to leave. When this hurricane occurred, the two hurricanes, instead of us going down and helping in a major way so that people would not have a reason to want to leave in the first place because they didn't have housing or water or sustenance, we did nothing. We're going to do a lot in our administration. We're going to be spending that $700+ million a year to change the life and circumstances of why people leave in the first place. That mother did not sit around on the kitchen table and say, you know, I got a great idea. Why I'm going to make sure my son gets taken care of is I'm going to put him, how old was he or she?
He's 9. I also met a 10-year-old.
A 9-year-old. I'm going to send him on a 1,000-mile journey across the desert and up to the United States because I know Joe Biden's a nice guy and he'll take care of him. What a desperate act to have to take. The circumstances must be horrible. So we can do something about that. That's what the vice president's going to be doing. What I did when President Obama asked me to come and deal. I was in Turkey at the time. He said, you got to come home and take care of this. So we put together a plan and it had an impact. And so the question here is how we go ahead and do this, what we do. There's no easy answer.
Quick follow, if I may. Do you want to see these unaccompanied minors staying in this country, or should they be deported eventually?
Well, the judgment has to be made whether or not. In this young man's case, he has a mom at home. There's an overwhelming reason why he'd be put in a plane and flown back to his mom.
Follow, sir.
Wouldn't just that stopping and staring just drive you crazy? I mean, I need the cricket noise. Chirp, 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 chirp. You know, it's just... Anyway, okay. We have one more. Could have had more, but, you know, time. And I can only take so much of this.
Follow, sir. You mentioned circumstances that must be horrific. The Customs and Border Protection Facility in Donna, Texas, I was there, is at 1,556% capacity right now with mostly unaccompanied minors. There are kids that are sleeping on floors. They are packed into these pods. I've spoken to lawyers who say that some of these children have not seen the sun in days. What's your reaction? What is your reaction to these images that have come out from that particular facility? Is what's happening inside acceptable to you? And when is this going to be fixed?
That's a serious question, right? Is it acceptable to me? Come on. That's why we're going to be moving 1,000 of those kids out quickly. That's why I got Fort Bliss opened up. That's why I've been working from the moment this started to happen to try to find additional access for children to be able to safely, not just children, but particularly children, to be able to safely be housed while we follow through on the rest of what's happening. That is totally unacceptable. Ken.
It's totally unacceptable, but he's in charge. Gonna move 1,000 now. Over 1,500% beyond capacity. We're gonna move 1,000 kids. There's another one. I'll play it Monday. Oh, wait a minute. This is good. I'm going over. I'll see what I can do. Anyway, this is the same reporter asking Jim.
With my question with the president yesterday, I asked him about transparency and access for journalists into some of the facilities at the border. The president said, I will commit when my plan is underway to have access. It sounded to a lot of people like he was saying, I will let more cameras in once I'm satisfied with the conditions. How is that consistent with transparency?
That's not actually what he meant. I'll first say we did allow access, including an NBC camera, exclusively into the shelter facility on Wednesday. And we're committed to increasing access and doing additional pools, making it available, these facilities, including the Border Patrol facilities, as well as the shelters. What he was conveying is right now his focus is on moving these kids out of these Border Patrol facilities, right? And making sure it's done in a way that keeps them safe and keeps everyone safe. That does not imply that we are not going to allow access until that is done. It implies that is his first focus. So thanks for asking the question. That was his intention.
Time frame for when, and noted that NBC did go in as pool. Do you have a time frame for when the next round of cameras might be allowed in?
Oh, we're working on it, hopefully soon, and it's something we're certainly committed to, and we're just working with DHS and HHS on when we can make it possible. Go ahead in the back.
And we didn't have the clip of Biden saying that, but he said, you can get in soon as my plan starts working. In other words, when that shelter is emptied out, then we'll let you in. You know that's what it is. All right, quickly, We must go. And you know, man, the man just really slowed down the show, didn't he? I mean, really. Just inside information time. We'll forego the fireworks. Speaking. Oh, I want to play it, but I don't have time. Speaking of the great pretender. Monday. The pretender is beaten down, and you know, between that and his meeting with heads of Europe, they shut the White House down early yesterday. They just, and the doctors got on them and said, you know, you're working him too hard. We told you. Remember, we told you. They told them that. We told you he can only do so much. He might have these times where he's really with it, and then he just crashes down. But he's beaten down because he knows he didn't do very well. And even though everybody thought, no, you did a great job. You did a good job, Mr. President. He knows that at times his mind just stopped. And he feels he was an embarrassment to himself and the country and everything else. I feel the same way, Joe. If I was your son, I would feel very bad for you. I feel bad for you now. But yeah, I just feel worse for us. All right, it's Friday, so it's time for the planners. They are just so ecstatic over Israel that just can't form a government. And not only preventing the forming of a government, but also because for the first time, an Arab party, I forgot what they're called, Rama or something, an Arab party got some seats. Enough to even, it's possible they could play a part in a new government. And that's directly from U.S. involvement of the planners trying to help. And so now they're glad there's probably going to have to be another election. And they're very glad because now they can really start moving that, you know, election interference. Yeah. And they want leaders that will sell out their own existence. They're looking for people that want to hurt their own country. And this is sick. They all the people on this committee carry stars of David in their pockets to remind them of their task to destroy Israel. Isn't that sick? These people are sick. And they're just moving so much aid through our country and also through other agencies to Hamas. All right. They are already on the church side. Remember, the planners meet every Friday in the basement of the White House to work on destroying the church and Israel. They're already enlisting people to apply and to try to ruin ministries and churches if the Equality Act passes. So they would go and try to get hired or join the church or whatever, and so they can bring these churches to court. They are even on planning to try a test case before the bill passes. They are also want many ministers caught up in sex scandals and many other problems, especially money problems. And they work in social media. They've been doing this to highlight ministers with that supposedly have a lot of money, to call them false and to bring them down. They especially are targeting the Southern Baptists right now, and Southern Baptists and what they call faith preachers. So that's what they're working on today. But they are happy because Israel's having problems. They hate Netanyahu, carry Star of David's in their pocket to remind them of their task to destroy Israel. Yeah, this is what we have in the White House. Pray for your country. Pray for one another. Enjoy the weekend. I'll see you next week.